So, Brexit.
Oh my god! What happens now?
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a socialist in denial.
Last week the UK voted to leave the European Union. Now, the actual process of getting Britain out is going to be sorted out over the next few years, but I think it's safe to say it's only a matter of time until Fortress Britain becomes a reality.
Translation? My special snowflake society will never exist!
Now, I've said this before, but I voted to remain in the European Union, not because I support the EU, but largely because the campaign to leave the EU has been spearheaded by reactionary forces, and, well, I wouldn't want to give those reactionaries a shot in the arm.
Hey kids, you want some friendly socialist advice? If at any point you might lose fair and square in an election, just abandon all of your principles and simply give in and be a giant sellout so that way you might win. After all, who wants to actually, be an individual, right?
It's not been, let's leave the EU to get rid of neoliberalism, it's been, let's leave the EU to get rid of the immigrants.
Everybody's looking for someone to blame, aren't they? Is it immigrants? Is it people on benefits? It was the fucking banks! They showed you them doing it on the fucking news! Am I the only person that remembers that?
Now, I did a brief segment about this on Dick Coughlin's left-wing propaganda podcast, which you will find linked in the description, and also Dick Coughlin has given his own perspective on the whole situation regarding Brexit in his latest edition of that podcast, which is titled Brollocs, which you will also find in the description. I voted to remain because I think that under the current circumstances, a vote for Brexit would embolden the far right and contribute towards further antagonism and racism towards refugees and migrants. Marine Le Pen, the leader of the French National Front, is delighted about the result. Geert Wilders, a far-right leader in the Netherlands, is wanting the Dutch to follow suit. And in the description you'll find an article looking at some of the racist incidents that have occurred following the vote for Brexit. In the past few days, National Action stickers have been popping up around Glasgow saying the usual, this is a white zone, no communism, no weed, no sodomy, no drugs, blah blah blah.
Blah 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 is right. I mean, look at this crap. Now, before I even move on, I took a look at some of these racist incidents, and they look pretty damn cherry-picked. I'll leave a link in the description below to his link, which is to the supposed racist incidents. And guess what? It's from the Huffington Post. Yeah, you're not going to find any bias there. But let's just take a look at this poster. Okay, the one on the left. By the way, we don't know who actually made these, because Cameron himself probably could have made these. Anyone could have made these. And you know what? Let's look at what this says. On the left, we have no communism, as if that's not projection. No weed. At what point did the left or right give two shits about weed when it came to Brexit? It had nothing to do with it. No drugs. No drugs. Okay. That's a complete non-point. That has nothing to do with anything. Then, no sodomy. No sodomy! Are you fucking high, Cameron? The very people who hate gay people are these immigrants. They literally had to actually have a separate place for gay people to go in asylum from the regular immigrants from the Middle East, because the migrants were so violent towards gay people. These people are coming from the Middle East, places that are heavily Islamic, and if you know anything about Muslims at all, the ideology of Islam is completely antithetical to gay rights. Istanbul recently had to shut down one of their gay pride parades because of fears of violence. Whites only, that's total projection. I don't believe any of this crap.
Stories have been coming out about kids at school from Eastern European backgrounds being told that they're not welcome.
Your source for this information is the Huffington Post. Okay, I won't laugh. But in all seriousness, though, the Huffington Post has proven time and time again to be a horrible source for any kind of valid information whatsoever. But because I don't feel like going through this article and picking it apart because of just sheer time, I'm really behind on a lot of stuff, I'll leave the link in the description below to this article so that way the audience can do that themselves. Also, this sign was in the article, and of course, I can understand, and when people say that this is a racist sign, yes it is, but here's the thing. If someone isn't actually committing an act of violence, then this sign is fine, because this sign is racist, but people have the right to be racist if they want to be. I don't encourage it, But guess what? That's called free speech. But you know, who needs that? I mean, who needs free speech? I mean, let's look at what's really racist in the eyes of Europe.
28-year-old Marcus Meacham was arrested for hate crimes after posting this joke video of his girlfriend's dog reacting to Nazi slogans.
My girlfriend is always ranting and raving about how cute and adorable her wee dog is, and so I thought I would turn them into the least cute thing that I could think of, which is a Nazi. Buddha, do you want to gas the juice? Gas the juice?
The video went viral, receiving 18,000 thumbs up to just 1,200 thumbs down. The vast majority of viewers thought that it was hilarious, but thanks to a small minority of perpetually offended retards, Meacham got a home visit from the Scottish police.
But it doesn't stop there. As you may have heard, thousands of other migrants across nearly every major German city got together in throngs on New Year's Eve and openly sexually assaulted young German women. A lot is still unknown about this event, but what we do know about it is absolutely fucking astounding. Germany's public broadcaster was forced to apologize because it deliberately chose not to broadcast this event because it would encourage anti-immigrant wrongthink. This is because, according to a German interior minister, what happens on right-wing chat rooms is at least as awful as the rape of German women. According to German politicians, mean words are literally as bad as rape. This is why the police in Cologne initially called this celebration largely peaceful in a public press release, while at the same time, internal reports by the police officers on the ground said that the outbreak of violence was far more serious than previously thought, and at one point senior police officers feared there could have been fatalities.
For example, if somebody questions the age of Mohammed's wife, that they should be, what, the penalty for them should be death as well?
No, I mean, you can ask about the age of the wives of the Prophet. You can criticize Islam in that you can have a debate and discussion. But there's a difference between insulting the honor of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, what this particular magazine did was portray him naked. And they portrayed him in different images
and
like that, which is
you're going
clearly
to have to get over it. I'm a Catholic, and there was a picture, an artist in the Brooklyn Museum, elephant dung on the Virgin Mary. I didn't like it, but I didn't go in and shoot the people in the museum.
Yeah, but that's your way of life, though.
But you're saying this is,
Islam, this is not allowed.
I'm running out of time. You're saying this is true Islam, and you're also, on the other hand, you say this is a peaceful religion. How is it peaceful if you believe in killing all these people that you disagree with?
Islam does not mean peace, Sean. It means submission. Submission to the commands of God.
Okay, so you want the world...
Come on, everybody, let's be tolerant together, hooray!
People are being attacked and shouted at in the street, and in my opinion this is only going to get worse. I don't think that the vote for Brexit has made people racist. Rather, I think that people who were already racist see Brexit as a sign that their views are more socially acceptable. Reports of hate crime have risen by 57% following the Brexit vote, and I think that's a dreadful consequence of the current situation.
I'm wondering exactly how they classify a hate crime nowadays. Hate crimes is a sort of matter of two things. Number one, the crime. Number two, if you can attach hate to it. Now, when you really think about it, they're starting to kind of go in the direction of not only is anything that you don't agree with hateful, but you can say that hate alone is a crime. Hate alone by itself is not a crime. It's not a good thing, but itself is not a crime.
So what happens now? Well, we're not officially out yet, so the government has to trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which basically notifies the European Council of the UK's intention to leave and sets up negotiations for that over a 2-year time frame. The value of the pound has plummeted to the lowest it's been in decades.
Would this dropping of the pound have anything to do with that UK housing bubble that was already going to pop because of the ridiculous policies put in by the European Union? Oh, well, who cares? Tolerance, right?
Following the leave vote. So whether any politician will actually have the gumption to trigger Article 50 and fuck things up any further is up in the air. David Cameron's resigned, he doesn't have the gumption to do it. So now they're all backpedaling to fuck. With Boris Johnson, it's almost as if he wasn't actually expecting to win. He just led the campaign to leave out of pure ambition for the sake of advancing his own career.
You do realize that most people in UKIP and the Leave campaign are not career politicians, which is kind of why they're done now, right?
Now that the Leave campaign have got the result that they wanted, Boris Johnson's just like, fuck, shit, we have to actually do this. Well, there's no rush for the UK to leave now. We didn't actually have a plan.
Why won't my special snowflake society ever exist? Oh, why? Oh, why? Oh, why? Oh, why?
It's become clear that Boris Johnson doesn't have the gumption to trigger Article 50. Earlier he was hand-waving and saying stuff like, oh no, there's not going to be another Scottish independence referendum because of the Leave vote, there's no appetite for that, despite the very clear change in circumstances. Seeing as Scotland voted 62% to remain in the EU and now risks being dragged out by England, the appetite for Scottish independence is likely to be far greater. I know lots of former no voters who have now changed their minds over this EU issue. I personally think that if we aspire to be anything other than some rainy fascist shithole, Scotland should pack her bags and fuck off.
What exactly is your definition of a non-fascist tolerant state, huh, Cameron? What is it exactly?
Protests follow New Year's Eve in Cologne and other German cities where hundreds of women were harassed by groups of men. Most of the attackers were reportedly of foreign origin, including many who arrived in last year's wave of migration. Police told RT they haven't dealt with a crime like this until now.
The Federal Criminal Police Office is aware of a phenomenon of jointly committed sexual harassment of women in public, which is called Taharush Jamaya. Until now, this phenomenon had not been known in Germany.
Taharush Jamaya is an Arabic word to describe group harassment. The type of crime is usually committed by young men during mass gatherings, such as festivals and demonstrations. Usually an inner circle attacks the victim, while an outer circle distracts the onlookers.
How fucking dare those evil racists think that Germany belongs to them? I mean, they were only born in Germany, raised in German culture, brought up into German institutions, paying German taxes, speaking the German language, with generations of ancestors living on the same German land, who collectively helped to build the German state, civilization, and culture at large. No, these refugees are Germans too. Don't you know? And of course, the new Muslim immigrants were celebrating New Year's Eve with Mama Merkel, returning her tolerance and love by blowing up a fucking Christmas tree. It's a new rendition of Dr. Seuss, The Muslims Who Stole Christmas.
Run, you fucking cowards! Run! Look! Run! Run! Bad boy! Bad boy! Bad boy! Run, run, run! This is it! This is the best of luck! Is this how you're going to control this crowd? You're joking! What's that? Stop me! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
So progressive!
As far as I'm concerned, Scotland should just run for the fucking hills and bail as soon as we can. So what about the Labour Party, which instead of using the fact that the Tories are in a mess to go on the offensive, is now tearing itself to shreds? Labour MPs have passed a motion of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn and are now going to hold another election for the Labour Party leader. Now, time and again, the Labour Party, through its capitulation to neoliberalism and austerity...
Neoliberalism. is a term which has been used by many scholars in a wide variety of social sciences and critiques, primarily in reference to resurgent into the 19th century ideas associated with laissez-faire economics, liberalism beginning in the 1970s and 1980s. Well, that's a buzzword if I ever heard one.
Has failed conclusively to represent the interests of the working class people that they claim to represent. And that failure of representation is why there is so much disaffection with the political establishment. And that disaffection is why there has been such a surge to the far right. It's why we've had this vote to leave in this referendum debate in the first place.
And also, this shit.
The EU isn't planning to become a federal superstate accountable only to the bureaucrats who profit from it. It already is one. It already has a central bank, a president, a currency, a criminal justice system, a passport, a flag, an anthem. These are all defining characteristics of a nation state. They lecture us all day about nationalism being evil, while trying to build a contrived pan-European nationality. Because it's not about free trade, it's not about peace, it's about obliterating the nation state and replacing it with their own Byzantine United States of Europe and seizing raw power. They are the same groups you now see all over the news claiming that Brexit will lead to the apocalypse. They're lying to you because they don't want their slush fund to come to an end. There's power without responsibility, the ultimate form of authoritarianism. You've heard it said that the EU is undemocratic. It's not undemocratic, it's anti-democratic. Look at how the European Union responds when citizens in Europe vote to reject its mandates. In Denmark, Ireland, France, the Netherlands, Greece, the people voted to reject the Maastricht Treaty, to reject the Nice Treaty, to reject the EU Constitution, to reject the Lisbon Treaty, to reject the Euro bailout. And every time the EU either made them vote again to get the result they wanted, or simply ignored the vote altogether.
If Labour get rid of Corbyn and put forward yet more lukewarm, corporate-loving Blairites, then they are going to just destroy any hopes that they had of regaining the working class vote. It's abundantly clear that these floundering cunts haven't learned a pissing thing. So what are the main priorities for the radical left in this situation? Well, first and foremost, I think
censorship.
It's a disgrace to live in a country in which ethnic minorities and Eastern Europeans feel less safe to walk the streets at night.
Safety, you giant hypocrites?
Taharush Jamaya is an Arabic word to describe group harassment. The type of crime is usually committed by young men during mass gatherings such as festivals and demonstrations. Usually an inner circle attacks the victim while an outer circle distracts the onlookers.
I think that the rise in racist violence is incredibly concerning and demands an urgent response from us. We need to strengthen and mobilise our anti-fascist groups to ensure that we are prepared for physical self-defence in our communities. Scotland should leave the UK. As for England, the ball is rolling for Brexit there, and it's inevitable at this stage. Politicians are going to use the current confusion and uncertainty to try to push through the kinds of economic policies that they have always wanted to implement. They're going to intensify the austerity measures and put through more cuts and essentially say, well, look, we have to do this, it's a state of emergency, and use that as an excuse to defund public services. We urgently need very strong workplace organisation to defend workers from the onslaught that is now going to intensify, to ensure that workers' rights will remain intact, and also to put pressure on the Labour Party, or whatever will remain of the Labour Party, to fight against any further capitulation to neoliberalism, which is what has got us into this mess in the first place.
What? Nothing you're saying makes any sense at all. Cameron, listen to me. You lost. Get over it.
As always, direct action gets the goods. So those are my thoughts on the currently bleak situation in the UK following the vote for Brexit. They've made their bed, and now the question is, are they going to sleep in it? In other news, Thunderfoot...
You know what? I'm done. I'm done trying to talk to this idiot. I've watched so many of his other videos at this point. I know he's not the kind of person who has an open mind. He pretends to be open-minded and like free speech, but he doesn't give two shits about that. He doesn't care about anything else but himself. So if he ever invites me to do a debate with him, I'll happily do it. But guess what? If that's not the case, I'm giving up trying to debate him. Instead, I'm just going to make my videos, criticize his ideas, and criticize anyone who I think has bad ideas. I'm fine if someone is being an idiot because they have the right to be an idiot, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with them. So thank you guys for watching. Have a fantastic day.
An anti-fascist